I'm Charlie Bright of Gold Derby, and today I'm speaking with Peter Nix, the director of the Apple original documentary Stephen Curry Underrated, as part of our Meet the Experts film documentary panel. One of the things that really makes this film work as well as it does is the way that you put together the clips of the college basketball games, especially during the tournament run in I guess it was 2009 or 2008.
8.
2008. I was wondering if you could describe how you went about putting those clips together of the NCAA games.
First thing I did is hire a great editor, which editors have saved more than one documentary out there from the directors. But JD Marlowe just did a fantastic job. Working with the material. I think when you have an archival film, it's always a matter of sort of how you work with that material, how you treat the material. I don't make a lot of archival films. I mainly do cinema verite. I'm a cinema verite director and shooter, and so I talked to JD early about trying to think about the archival as verite, using like weird shots and sort of off angles and stuff that might seem messy is generally the stuff that I'm more attracted to. And so we tried to establish that grammar. But what happened, going back to, I think Lauren had said it, that and via Matt, that where you begin is never where you end. And there were situations, the main thrust of sort of how the film ended was not planned at all. and the emergence of sort of how the then and now juxtaposed within the footage we shot with the archival was one of those magical things that we did discover in the edit. And when JD first sent me a clip of that juxtaposition, it kind of like sent chills down my spine. I was like, wow, that's really powerful.
I will say it was I when I heard one of the players say that they were the Cinderella of that tournament, it always rings with me because I'm a graduate of George Mason University, and we were the 06 Cinderella in the NCAA tournament.
Exactly.
And don't let those VCU people tell you that they claim that title.
I think I remember that one.
So what made you want to tell Stefan's story?
I've been telling stories in the Bay Area for the bulk of my career, going back to my first film, The Waiting Room, which came out in 2012. And that's actually how I met my business partner, Ryan Coogler. He was making a film called Fruitvale Station. And Oscar Grant, who was in Fruitvale, was born and later died at Highland Hospital, where we were shooting The Waiting Room. And I think Ryan was trying to get access to shoot some scenes at the hospital. He couldn't get access. And so somebody at San Francisco Film Society connected us. And we, remained friends. Then when we started the company, I came on board to run his nonfiction division. And simultaneous to that, Steph had reached out to Ryan. Ryan's a huge Warriors fan and got to know Steph from the games. And I think it was the combination of sort of my sort of Bay Area documentary work plus Ryan sort of attracted Steph to us, and then I had to make the decision whether I wanted to direct this movie, because I tend not to do movies like this. I tend to do deeply immersive cinema verite social issue films. But the more I thought about it, the more I got to know Steph, and thinking about my sort of work telling the story of Oakland, it was very much a story connected to the themes that I've explored in all of my films, which are generally centered around the power and resilience of community and family. And this story was very much aligned with that theme, and so the rest is history, so to speak.
I think one of the most striking things that we see in the documentary is the relationship that Curry had with his coach at Davidson, Bob McKillop. And I was wondering, and I'm curious as to what made that relationship between those two different than other relationships between college players and their coaches.
Coach McKillop emerged. We started noticing pretty early on that he was going to be a significant character. the significance of the role that he played in Steph's life. You know, the concept of mentorship, and also, you know, this notion of the power of being seen. You know, so much of sort of my work and Ryan's work is about the power and consequences of not being seen, and I think that played out in Oscar's life, and when his life was taken from him, and that plays out, and you know how, you know, people in Oakland, the uninsured, are stereotyped. When you're not seen in your full potential, can have damaging and lasting impacts on individuals and entire communities. And what we noticed with Steph's story was, obviously he's got a remarkable family, not just his parents, but like his grandma Candy, and that sort of support network that you recognize right away that this guy has a special relationship to family. But Coach really, he was the one person who saw Steph when so many other people did not see him for his full potential, and that was mainly, but we couldn't fit it into the film. We thought about doing it as like a text card after, but we decided against it. But he was very much like Steph, a small, undersized player from New York, working class, hard scrabble, who himself sort of like rose up against the odds. And so when he saw Steph for the first time, he could see in himself so much in Steph, and that's why he was the only coach to offer him a Division I scholarship.
I love that you highlight the family. My personal favorite part is when his two daughters are doing homework. He's writing his thesis, and his toddler son is jumping on the air packs.
Yeah,
I'm watching that, going, yeah, I would be doing that too.
Yeah, he stole the scene 2 or 3 times in the movie. I mean, it's a classic thing, man. That's what I love. You know, I like hanging out, just waiting for those moments that, you know, sure, Steph was like, why are you filming this? You know, but those are the moments that we live for as sort of observational documentarians. And sometimes you don't fully know until you get into the edit room whether a scene's going to be poignant or funny or relevant. But we, you know, Steph and his family, to their credit, they tolerated us just hanging out at the house, shooting nothing. And ultimately those scenes, you know, found their way in with deep meaning, because like a big part of what was driving him was to fulfill this promise that he made to his mom years ago, that he was going to finish college. His mom was the first in her family to go to college. His kids were getting older. I think we met Riley probably when she was like Cannon's age, when Steph won his first championship, and he brought her up on the at the podium for the Q&A. And she's now almost a teenager, you know. And so Steph recognized that his kids were getting older, and that it was time for him. That's why he wanted to make this film now. His career's not over, but he wanted to tell this part of his story now, partly for himself, but also for his kids.
You know, I imagine you must have learned so much about Curry over the course of making this movie. For you, what was the most interesting thing that you learned about Steph over the time that you were making this?
I mean, I haven't been around a ton of like radically famous people. I mean, he's probably the most famous person I've spent time with, and you know, I was immediately struck by his presence. Like, he looks you right in the eye. He's very present. He's when we first met, pretty quickly he got his phone out and he was showing me pictures from college, you know, and him and his friends horsing around, and like the sense of nostalgia there. I knew like right there, like, oh, this is what he wants to share. This is what he wants people to know about. And one of those teammates, Jay Rich, is someone that's still in his orbit, and we recognize pretty quickly that he keeps people from that time around him, and that to me spoke a lot to his character. Family is very important to him. Friendship is very important to him. Community is very important to him. And those are all sort of themes that I've explored in different ways with my films, where a lot's at stake societally, but this was a very unique opportunity to sort of zoom in on, you know, and sort of go beneath the surface of a celebrity that we generally only know through these like quick snippets, press conferences, and, you know, little moments that we see on television.
And Subway ads.
Or Subway ad, yeah, exactly. Which we had to film the Subway ad for that.
Yeah.
And that's when we ran into Spike Lee, so it was worth it.
Well, Pete, thank you so much for joining us. Wish you all the best, and we look forward to seeing you on our panel in just a little bit.
Awesome. Thanks so much.